Welcome everyone to the Wealth Learning TV channel here on YouTube, and this is also going to the International Mentoring Community YouTube channel. And yes, it's welcome here on a Saturday morning, and I'm Dr. Stephen Hobbs. I am the co-founder of the Wealth Movement, and I also co-founded the International Mentoring Community. So today I'm going to be taking a look at 10 educating approaches, of which one is a mentor, but I'm going to do it through the lens of outdoor educating, outdoor education, linking it to the outdoor educator practitioner. And I'm going to do a bit of a deeper dive into the outdoors, the outdoor education component, and then end up looking at the 10 educating approaches um, from more of an eagle view, an overview of those 10, actually it's 12, my apologies, 12 educating approaches. And to be able to give that to you as a starter, as you might engage with this outdoor educating, becoming an outdoor educator, or you already are, and you're looking at deepening your practice, enlivening the ways in which you educate those who participate with you. And I just like to start off by reminding you to subscribe here to the channel. I know it's called Wealth Learning TV, but the main focus will be around adult, outdoor educating, a bit more about extraordinary experiences, and certainly leaning into environmental legacy. So, with that, again, just remind you to subscribe. Today, I just want to share a bit of background because I find myself not necessarily, some people talk about from a transition doing a pivot, like 90 degrees, 180 degrees. I'm not quite doing that. I am doing a course correction around the use of some of the words like educating and extraordinary experiences and legacy, because I have been sharing quite a bit about those who are 55 plus years young in transition and what are they going to do. But it's kind of apropos is that around 55 years ago, I first got introduced to the world of the outdoors. And that got me started down this path of learning about outdoor education and involvement in the outdoors and what does that mean. And at that point, when I was 55 years young, 55 years ago, I was in my 68 area. And what was happening now at 68, but I was 12 at the time, and 12 and 13. And what was happening is that I was being introduced into the summer camp, those day camp programs. I was a participant one summer. The next summer, I was a counselor. And it was at that point in time that I sort of got this really great grounding, and pun intended, grounding in this participation with nature and being in the outdoors. And from that, I actually went on to become a residential camp counselor. I also went on to learn how to properly canoe with a birch bark canoe and a canvas-based canoe. And I was given a mentoring to those experiences, which touched me very deeply. And it was from there I went on to doing lots and lots of other things related to the outdoors. But as I've grown older now, and I'm in my, I've mentioned 68 and or 68.25 years young, I found myself, I had taken some side trails and sort of came back and took another little trail off and came back. But now I believe I've returned to my core. I've returned to that, what I was doing when I was 12 and 13, and that feeling though of welling up in me about what I can do and be for the world, with the planet, and from the whole, from my environmental legacy story, is to support those who are adult uh, outdoor educators. And let me just flip that, educating in the outdoors with adults. I appreciate there's a lot of educators in the outdoors working with children, but I'm going to focus a little bit more around those who are supporting the adults. Not to say that I won't speak to those who are interacting with children. I know, like, forest schools and outdoor programs for kids are really blossoming at this point in time. But I'm going to look at working more with the those who are dealing with adults. But you never know. 5 videos from now, 5 Saturdays from now, I may switch that over. I don't know. We'll see how it unfolds as I interact with you. So the other part to this story is, I just want to acknowledge, is that this jacket that I'm wearing today is about, was it 25 to between 25 and 30 years old, because I used it when I was working as a whitewater rafting guide, and also when I was instructing wilderness remote first aid. So it's one of those jackets that has been with me and has seen the outdoors. And I thought, from a celebration point of view, I would wear it today. It's starting to get really broken up in the back and stretched out, and the threads have busted. The zipper on the here in the front is broken now, but I've got it to a point where I can just use it as a throw over. And I just wore it this morning from a place of celebration. So that's why I'm wearing this one. And I just like to ask you a question, is that I've sort of suggested where I'm going and why I'm doing what I'm doing, but I'm going to ask you is, what are you attending to at this moment? Hopefully it's listening and watching the video. But around you, what are you attending to? Are you multitasking? Are you listening to this and doing something somewhere else? And I ask that is because those are two important questions that, when you start interacting with the outdoors, becomes particularly important using something called a safety lens. And I'm going to dive much deeper into this notion of outdoors and safety, but I'm just bringing it forward at the moment because it's sort of a starting question, a challenging question for you. What are you attending to at this moment? And are you multitasking in that attending? Because is it possible to multitask? And we'll explore those again another time. But I have to admit, and I've sort of shared a little bit this in the intro, is that I got a tad lost in what it is that I'm doing. And I got caught up in a bit of the noise more than the news. And the noise was coming at me from a lot of different directions, attempting to get me to think about, well, how do I create an online business? And I'll do it for this group or that group, or what's the latest fad to be able to get my digital marketing up and going. And it started to grind on me a little bit. And I said, well, hang on a minute. Let me go back to my roots. All right. My grounding. Yes, puns intended, as I mentioned earlier. And really come back to understand who I am and what it is that I want to do over the years that are following. So I started to get more into my wayfinding, or finding my way. And that's what got me back to understanding that I had a lot to do, a lot of threads, strings, cords that linked into this world of adult education, adult educating. And I just said, I think this is where I am going to land here. And I have actually found a great swelling of head, heart, and hands as I'm contributing to this. And this is wonderful for me, because it was the other day I was at the mailbox and I was chatting with a neighbor, and we just got chatting. She's a painter, and she said, well, "What is it that really excites you? What is you want to do as you know you're moving on and in your years young here?" And I said, I would really love to write my forest fantasy parable series, a series of novels that are parables. It's a story to illustrate something, um, moral, spirituality. That's how it's been used in the past. Um, and I wanted to write this. There's a series of 10, and I've been working on it in my head and paper over the years. And I said, if I had my druthers, that's what I would love to do. And she sort of tilted her head and went, "Oh, okay." And it was at that moment, for whatever reason, I said, "You're good." Because it was like me saying it out loud, her acknowledging it. That's what went in, deepened my understanding and my coming back and doing this pivot to outdoors and education. So for me, it's a wonderful and wonderful way in which to start creating these extraordinary experiences for myself and living this environmental legacy. So, with that introduction, I know it's a little bit longer, but I wanted to give you a little bit of a flavor of where I'm coming from, what's unfolding for me. And so, let's get on with it and let's take a look at this word outdoor, and then we'll take a look at outdoor education and outdoor educating. So, outdoor, indoor, outdoor being very much. Outside. When we talk about going through the door from inside to outside, we're going to the outer doors. Outer doors might be a little bit farther along than your yard or garden, and we think about, well, maybe there's trees or water, but sometimes the outdoors and the experience of the outdoors is right there in your backyard. And I just wanted to bring that a reminder to you, is that what I'm talking about doesn't necessarily have to be drive, 50 kilometers, 50 miles to go to the forest and hike in the mountains, where it can be right around you in your town, your city, just even right there in your backyard. So I thought I would just use that as a reminder. And the other thing is that outdoor is sometimes used to describe something like an outdoor garden versus an indoor garden. And so it's kind of an interesting word and how it plays itself out. But the interesting thing that really came to me was this understanding of, I associate the word outdoor with grown, all right? The indoor with built. So let me share with you, and this is not absolute, this is just me sharing with you the use of it. So when I think of outdoor, I think about what's growing or what you grow. When I think about the indoor, it's what you build. So I'm thinking about the growing of plants and gardens to nurturing forests versus building homes and houses and office blocks and things like that. And so it sort of plays itself out on any given time that those are both present for me. I think they're both present for you, and I'm interacting with both of those. And it's when I switch from going from sort of walking in the hallways, all right, and the pathways, so the hallways of what is built and the pathways of what is grown, is that it gives me an opportunity to be in a couple of places and over the course of a day to experience both of those and how my extraordinary experiences happen in both of those. But I'm leaning more into what happens from an educating perspective with the outer doors. I have spent years being an educator indoors and working online as an educator, and what it does it mean to bring the correct tools and techniques to education indoors. I'm really coming back to this notion of educating and education in this growing, in this nature-based, this outdoor setting, and bringing that to the foreground. But there's an interesting thing here, is that when I'm in the outdoors, I'm also reminded is that sometimes the built world is sort of like an x-axis. You see the y-axis. You see this. notion of verticalness, where the grown world, it has a bit more flavor of the x-axis, the more horizontal. But if you go to the forest, you also sometimes will pay attention to, and that's why I talked about attend, is that you'll see the verticalness of the tree trunks before you see the horizontalness of the groundscape and the horizon. And that, oh, okay. So even in a sense, so that's why this notion of vertical, horizontal, built, grown, this metaphor that's here for you is not absolute. Okay, it's sort of like Swiss cheese. You can sort of drive through some of the holes on it. But I wanted to bring it to your foreground for you, is so that you're aware of where you are, indoors, outdoors, how you're looking at it, sort of X and Y axis. What does that mean? What's the metaphors that are there for you? So when you're with nature, or you're in the wild, you're with the wilderness, you're in some remote settings, then these are ways in which to look at it from an outdoors perspective, knowing there will be some built aspects that will come into that. And I know that that became really important to me, because when I instructed wilderness remote first aid for about 25 years, it was on and off because there was some other work I was doing. I really came to understand my involvement in the outdoors and what I was doing. It was at that time I was a whitewater rafting guide as well, and combining those activities. But in there, I also was a team development using the outdoor activities, experience-based learning. So all of that was pointing at the direction of understanding this, what is grown and built, and how do they interact, and maybe sometimes how do they collide. And that led me to my own stories about environmental legacy. But I just, again, I bring this to you just so that it heightens your awareness of these environments that we're interacting with. And this outdoor recreation is sort of like taking into consideration all the activities, including the motorized way of doing it, where there's machine supplement, machine support, versus outdoor pursuits, which is a bit more human powered. So I think, people take their motorized boat out to go fishing. Some people take their canoe out, they paddle their canoe out to go fishing. And there's a bit of a difference there as well. So with that, I'm just sort of highlighting these different environments, because when we think about the environment, there's a really great bridge here, is that if the environment is the whole, all of what it is that we're experiencing, there is then this word ecology, and ecology is about the study of our relationships with the other relational bodies, the other living organisms, non-living organisms. How do we interact with them? I think about those as our wild kin and our non-living kin, and how we are interacting in the ecology, the study of that eco that unfolds for ourselves, which then lends me to thinking about living life, living my life, and being a human, being fully human. And what does that mean to me? Sort of layering it out, sort of like a ripple effect in terms of the environment that's there. And what that did was, it really got me thinking about what it means to be for the world, the built world with humanity, that and what humanity is building. And then that got me thinking about being with the planet more, around that what's growing, and being with our wild kin. And then that led me to think about, well, what does it mean to being from the whole, the sort of the environmental aspect, looking at it the whole in terms of, being for the world, being with the planet, how are those interacting, and as I'm looking at it from a whole. And it's from those lenses that I'll be adding a little bit more as I go along. And encouraging a deeper, richer practice, especially for those of you who are adult educators, adult outdoor educators, those of you who are outdoor practitioners involving adults. How might we deepen and enrich your practice? And I would love to learn from you as well. And that's why I always encourage people to comment and share so that I can pick up new ideas and even counterpoints to what I'm offering. And that's why editing is so important. Editing is about add, alter, and delete. And that's from a comments is that I learn and I might go, I hadn't seen it that way before. And I could add that. And I might go, did I say that? Maybe I need to edit it out. These are ways in which we can interact even through the video and through this Wealth Learning TV here on YouTube, and of course on the international mentoring community where this is broadcast as well. But there's something that someone shared with me at one point in time. I consider him like a book mentor. I've taken some courses from him. And he said once is that he was a celestial being having a terrestrial experience. And I've always appreciated that. So that's sort of like from a celestial being having a terrestrial planet experience in terms of being human. And I've always thought that that was a really great way to sort of summarize up what it is that, in this case, I'm attempting to share this notion of indoors, outdoors, the outside experiences that you have, and what does that mean for you, and being for the world, with the planet, and from the whole. So let's just take a quick look at education, and then that'll get us into the educating approaches that I wanted to cover off today. Education is really about a field of study. It's about using tools and techniques to guide the process of learning that people are interacting with. And it's also a way to phrase, I have an education in, and mine, I've gone through forestry and outdoor recreation and environmental sciences and adult and human performance improvement. These are areas that I have studied in, and I have education in. And I also have a little bit of education from the School of Hard Knocks too. And so each one of us, in some way or another, has interacted with education, and we have an education, and we, in a sense, have this knowledge and skills that we've accumulated over time. But I think it was John Dewey. Yes, it was John Dewey. I sometimes mix him up with someone else. John Dewey, who is an educator in the U.S., one of the earlier adult educators, said something to the effect that education in its broadest sense, is the means of social continuity. There we go. Education in its broadest sense is the means of social continuity. Whew, I have to dig that one out. And the notion of education in its broadest sense is a way for social continuity. And that's why education is so important. And when it gets torn apart or attacked, I always have this, okay, can we settle this down and remember what education is about, and to have the ways and means for education to be available for all, and to be able to then offer this education, this adult outdoor education, so that more can experience what this grown world that we have around us, this grown planet that we have around us, and how to experience it is so important. And at the edge of that, there's this notion of the human development that takes place, and the outdoors is a really wonderful place to have this happen. And I know that from three sort of key phrases: a preparation approach, a prevention backpack, and a practice continuity. And we'll be getting into these more in later videos, but the preparation approaches, are you approaching nature from a prepared perspective? Do you have a backpack of tools and techniques and things that can support you in case something was to happen, but you're doing it from a place of prevention so that you know you have that. And then there's this idea of the continuance of your practice and getting better at what you do. Sometimes it's often very different to go out and learn to paddle in a very small pond, go out and do it on a lake, and then take and go onto a river. This notion of your continuance of practice as an example. So let's get towards the notion of outdoor educating. And to make the bridge here is that the root of education is educare, C-A-R-E, and educere, C-E-R-E. Now, this is important because educare is to bring up, all right? It's the passing along of knowledge, skills, and attitude. It's what you are learning as you're going through. But the educere is really about to lead out. And it's to say to yourself, am I ready, able, and willing to lead out with what my knowledge and skills and attitude do I have? And that's the strength and opportunity of education. Therefore, the ways in which you are educating then become really important. And finding out which educating approaches are best for you for the activities that you're involved with becomes important in terms of this preparation approach, this prevention backpack, this practice continuance. And that's why I wanted to go over from a practitioner point of view, an educator point of view, an outdoor point of view, all right, working with adults, is how does this unfold? What are these educating approaches that are available to you? Because you might be a naturalist, you might be a park interpreter, you might be a wilderness guide, you might be an alpine hiking guide. There are different ways in which you come to the activities that you're doing. Yet, what's the educating approaches that you want to weave into what it is that you're doing? And therefore, I wanted to just go over these 12 educating approaches, knowing I'm going to share more in the videos that are going to be coming up. But let's just take a look at these educating approaches through this lens. There are groupings of 4. The first grouping I call teaching in the reach. The second grouping is guide on the ride. And the third one is sage off the page. Now, these categorizations, I'm having fun with them. You might go, sage, what's a sage got to do with the outdoors and activity? I get that. Again, just go with me here just to see how I'm attempting to bring these ideas, these educating approaches together. And again, I want to remind you that this is a very high level eagle view, right, from the clouds view of these educating approaches. So with this notion of teach in the reach, the 4 that I'd like to bring to your attention are facilitator, instructor, trainer, and consultant. Now, these ones, I tend to think of them as involving persons. There's more than a person present when you're facilitating, when you are instructing, training, consulting. There is a group of people, and you're sort of doing it from you as the educator are sort of working within. You are meeting them and then doing something with them so that they could learn something, but hopefully they will deepen their practice. But you don't know how each person will end up deepening their practice. That's where the next 4 come into play. But this this notion is helping you to be you, um, to be for yourself, all right, is sort of comes up in the next four. So the first four is a little bit more about sort of being a citizen, the notion of civility. These next four is about, challenging yourself to be you. So let me give those to you. The guide on the ride is about mentor and coach and shifter and counselor. And I tend to think of these as more one-to-one. All right. It's not to say you can't interact with a person to do some facilitating or some training. That's possible. Can you do coaching in a group? That's possible. But again, it's not that they're absolutely separate. They do touch, they do mix together. But when we tend to think of the teach and the reach for, it's more about persons. The guide on the ride tends to be about the person. And so, again, mentor, coach, shifter, counselor are the ones that I associate with that. Which then brings me to the third categorization, which is sage off the page. Now, why I'm using it is there's no such sage as that wise person who has accumulated more lived experience. And while a mentor certainly has lived experience, the sage, in a sense, has taken it off the page. It's very much fully in who they are and what they're doing. And I bring up four here. They are celebrant, weaver, navigator, and holeric. And Holveric, my apologies. And the celebrant around the notion of creating these extraordinary experiences and celebrating those experiences with you. So what they're doing is they're blending up this notion of the teacher and the guide and finding a way to celebrate how those two have come together. And then the weaver is taking it and saying, okay, how can we weave all this celebrant, this teacher and guide, and bringing it so that it's this community of significare, this community of significance. And I use the word significare, significant caring and creating a community. And then the navigator is getting into navigating the gates in terms of how are you up leveling yourself and how are you weaving all of this together and celebrating this together and being a teacher and a guide. It's just accumulating and accumulating, getting to the point of understanding this notion of holveric, this notion of whole, and being able to have some insights. I see it. I see the whole, and to be able to bring more of what is around us, the sort of galactical, remember that celestial being, into the play of the educating approaches. So again, you can appreciate that I'm talking from a high level around these three categorizations and these 12 educating approaches. And I will go into them in a much more deeper and richer way as the videos start to unfold. And I bring this to your attention because I think there's an imperative for those of you who are picking up on this, and you are an adult educator and an adult practitioner, an adult outdoor educator, an adult outdoor practitioner, is that there's an imperative here. And the imperative is help them help you. Okay. It's actually a book I wrote quite a few years ago. I'm actually going to rewrite it because the first time I wrote about these 9 educating approaches. There's now 12 as I see them. And it's help them help you. So how is it that you can help those you're going to interact with? Now, it could be with a group. It could be with a series of individuals. It's how do you help them so that they can help you? Because in those interactions, you get to understand your own human development as you're helping them with your human development. And therefore, there's this exchange that takes place. this integration, these interactions that are so beautiful, right? That when they happen for you and you can get the gratitude and the presence, the inspiration, the enthusiasm, the certainty from those interactions, then this notion of help them help you just blossoms. And it's sort of one of those phrases that sort of always in and around me and forefront when I'm doing my educational work. Because the subtitle to this new book that's going to be coming out, sorry, the revision of this book that I wrote before is Help Them Help You Organize and Deliver Extraordinary Experiences, Services, and Products. Because if you are this adult outdoor educator, adult outdoor practitioner, you're in that world, then the organizing, the delivery of extraordinary experiences is really important. But also the services and products that go with those experiences become very important as well. So let's just be sure in what it is that I'm sharing with you, and this is sort of moving towards the closing. Is that these three categories were meant to be high level. The notion of this explanation of education and educating, and the notion of outdoors and indoors is meant to be a bit more high level, because I'll be getting into each one of them in a little bit more detail as the videos come along. But what we'll be also doing is we'll be exploring some pairings. In particular, I lean into a facilitative mentor approach, right, when I bring those together, as compared to an instructive coach. And so we'll explore those and see where we go. And I'm also going to be offering on these other Saturday mornings is some tips and tools associated with these educating approaches, so that you might pick something up that you might be you can use. But again, I'm hoping you comment, like, share, so that we can get your thoughts as well. So I think what I'm going to do, based on what I've shared with you today, is I'm going to take a look at extraordinary experiences. So what's an experience? What's an extraordinary experience? And extraordinary is actually on a continuum of 5. It's the 5th one. And so I'll go over those with you. I'll go over a little bit about the importance of services and what I mean by services, and products, both tangible and intangible. So give you a bit of a sense there. And also to explore, let's see, I'll do the facilitative mentoring next time. And I think that will be important because it's actually a really great way to look at drawing the ideas from a group and how you might mentor individuals, which for those of you who do group activities, it's a great way in which to, how do you facilitate? How do you help them to help you through facilitating? And also for some of you, you might be doing one-to-one nature walks, or doing some adventure therapy, therapeutic therapy using the outdoors, and understanding about mentoring might be helpful to you. So again, that's what we're going to take a look at. So just as a reminder, Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time is when I'm doing these live broadcasts here on Wealth Learning TV. This will be like a series of 10 videos. There'll be 9, and then the 10th one will be a summary. So they'll sort of be brought together, and that way I can cover off all these educating approaches and deepen our connection around outdoor educating, outdoor education, these educating approaches for us. And then what I'll do is I'll probably shoot another series. And again, as it gets closer to the end of this current 10, I'll make the announcement, and we'll see where we go with the next set of videos. So with that, again, subscribe, comment, like, and share. And I so do appreciate when people comment, because I love to learn. I have this really strong curiosity about me. and to explore possibilities with you. So with that, using the root of education, educare, and educere, this notion of bring out, to lead from, I would just like to say thank you and take care.